Okay, so welcome everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. My name is Ryan Thomas. I'm the Vice Chair of the International Chesapeake Board. I'm really happy to be here with all of you guys today. So today for our session, we're going to build a little bit on the session that took place earlier that Heidi and Courtney presented at to talk to us a little bit about the relationship between LEED and TDM. And today we have Justin and Luana who are going to continue that conversation. And they're going to highlight specifically something that the Transportation Demand Management Institute is doing in partnership with the U.S. Green Building Council to increase the awareness of TDM as a way to help with LEED certification. So I'll just tell you very briefly about our speakers. So I'll start with Luana. Luana is the Director of TDM and Business Integration for the Walt Disney Company. With over 25 years of experience in transportation, she leads the company's broad role of TDM operations and compliance, execution of events and promotions relating to all areas of the environment and conservation, and is directly responsible for overseeing the day-to-day interface across all company business units in support of the integration of environmental initiatives and programs for Walt Disney Worldwide Services. Then we also have Justin Shore. Justin is a senior TDM specialist at Wells & Associates with over 18 years of TDM experience in planning, developing and implementing innovative transportation solutions to create sustainable environments. If you'd like to read their very long bios, you can just check out the book. So I will mention just before handing it over to Justin and Luana that this session is actually being recorded. So that it could be shared on the website for TDMI. And so if you're going to ask questions, please just speak loudly for the purposes of the recording. So with that, we'll hand it over to Luana.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. Kind of spread out. So just some clarification on my title. I was asked, so what do you do? What are you under? So I work in the Department of Corporate Citizenship, but the division in the Department of Environment and Conservation. So basically my job is all TDM related. Anything that looks like, smells like TDM and employees, I'm in charge of it, as well as the business integration side of our environmental standards for the Walt Disney Company. So hopefully you don't have to read the whole thing now and have a better understanding what I do. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about TDMI's partnership with the Green Building Council and give you an example of what Disney has done to integrate TDM to their certifications as well. So TDMI was actually founded or incorporated in 1982, and it's a 501c3 charity organization based out of California. And originally, somebody that had been around a long time now, it was part of ACT, but is now a separate entity. And the current composition of TDMI is 4 board officers and 11 board trustees. And the reason I chose to be on the board was because I felt that for our company, we're a global company, and when you think of TDM, how do you find out what is happening? For example, we have a park that we're opening in Shanghai, so how do we make those connections? So, maybe I make the connections, maybe we start finding them on the TDMI side. So, it just does not exist out there. You have to go to your cities and your states, and you have to figure out what compliance is out there, and so this is what we're really hoping to grow, and this will be the footprint we leave behind. And I also hold the position as treasurer, which is not my favorite position, but you hate writing checks. I like to spend money. So our mission is to establish TDMI as an international TDM sustainable transport umbrella group facilitating information sharing and innovation in TDM, and to provide educational opportunities through lectures, a series of various transportation and non-transportation events, such as the one we're doing today here at the Chesapeake chapter. And then to compile the existing research on TDM and house it in one location, as I mentioned earlier. So, of course, that's kept secret. LEED points through TDM. So the importance of letting the development and property management communities know about the best kept secret, because LEED points through TDM, is why TDM is taking an interest in getting the word out of these communities as a means to advance the TDM industry. So here's the U.S. Green Building Council website, TDMI, and the U.S. Green Building Council identified opportunities to get the word out to a database of TDM professionals to help get alternative transportation credits. And then here's TDMI's website, which provides a social media platform for announcements and discussions on TDM development issues and ideas. TDM LEED module, resource to tie TDM professionals into LEED certification. And by working with U.S. Green Building Council staff through Justin Shore and Peggy Schwartz to allow us for a reference link from the U.S. You say that 5 times, U.S. the GBC website. And then the importance of the module will be to allow TDM experts not only here in the Washington, D.C. area, but also across the nation and eventually around the world. And so our goal is to connect with developers and property management so that when they think about LEED certification, how it ties into what they're doing. And I know that when the connection was made, when the meeting started, it took a little convincing, but now they're on board, so we're really happy that they're partnering with us now. And so LEED certification database. So self-certification criteria includes conducting and analyzing the alternative community surveys, the implementation of TDM programs, for example, educational, new high orientation, carpools and van pools, which we're all very familiar with, basic support strategies, bring your guaranteed ride home and your emergency ride programs and preferential parking, and then direct strategies such as telecommuting and transit subsidies. And the implementation of parking management programs, and then inclusion of bicycling accommodations. These are all things people just don't think about when they're building a building. And then, parking is always an issue. They don't think to integrate these things that this can really help them when it comes to LEED certification. And then TDMI and TDM-led resource tools will be available as a beta site, and it's being unveiled for you today for this chapter. So you'll be able to actually test it. There's actually going to be a reduced registration at $50 instead of $100. And so the beta test will happen through May 3rd. You can sign up so you can test it out and see if that works. And so just to kind of give you an example how integration happened, for Disney, we work closely with our corporate real estate and our developers. But it's really interesting that these are the little parts that people do forget. But I have to say that this is not something Disney forgot going into it. They knew this was an important part for many reasons because, one, they're going for the LEED Gold certification, and the second reason is, through your environmental impact reports, they only give you so much parking. So we knew they were going to come to us anyway to get this, which was great. So this is just a picture of our Grand Central Creative Campus. It's a long-term master plan of redevelopment, and it started in 2000, and the plan is going to be finished by 2025. So this is just the beginning of it. And we're really excited because we have our studio site, and then we have our Burbank site and our Glendale site, and they're not even 5 miles apart, but the campuses are growing equally in size. So we have 5,000 one campus, and we have 5,000 probably going to grow to 10,000 at the other site. So it's not only the TDM component, of getting people out of their cars, it's also your traffic congestion, what your impact is on the community. And so for our parking structure, we have LED light fixtures with photocells and occupancy sensors, lower light levels when not needed. And this next one I think is really cool. The photovoltaic generation takes the garage completely off the grid and helps backfill the building's electricity. demands, which I think is really, really cool. We do have a building, this is our children's center that is LEED Platinum. The children's center is smaller, it was a little easier, but this is something that going forward, this is what we think about. There has to be that integration that's very important to us as a company. This kind of gives you an idea of what the footprint kind of looks like. So if you look at GC3 Phase 2, you can see that was all parking, and now it's buildings and parking. And so we have our carpool spaces, our van pool spaces, our LED and FED spaces, our bicycle lockers, and we have bicycle pumps so people can repair their bikes there if needed. And currently we're working on, now our big dilemma is just trying to figure out what type of charging stations to go with, because there's so many out there. That's going to be the best one for their employees. So hopefully this kind of gave you a snapshot of what Disney is doing as it relates to trying to make that integration piece of LEED certification. Thank you for your time.
Do you want to
take a few questions for Luana.
What is daylight harvesting?
Daylight harvesting? I think I really don't know. I apologize. I don't know, but I can find out.
Yeah, that was related to the photovoltaic cells. I mean, I think it's just making sure that you're, like Luana said, not pulling from the electric grid in order to sustain the electrical demands of that facility. And so that, I guess being in Southern California, you got a lot of that.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, got a lot of it. Sunshine all year round.
So, Luana, do you also see the additional opportunities for the electric vehicles, and how's that all working?
For Disney?
Yeah.
Yes, we do. We're trying to, actually, we're putting together a business case. We've already done the policy. And our goal is to roll it out across the company so that as our other divisions, as people think of Disney, they think of Disneyland. I mean, we're across the U.S., we're around the world, so, we need to at least kind of pave the way so that when our company's thinking about how we're doing it and what type of systems we're installing. So, yes, we're definitely working on that now.
But, and maybe this is going to come up in some more of the discussion, but tell me how, as a TDM practitioner in another part of the country, what kind of resources or advantages I might make from be able to take for our community participating in the new pilot instance of the website.
Yeah.
Can you guys repeat the question just so that we can?
Yeah, I guess the question is, coming from Texas, what are the benefits to practitioners in Texas and other parts of the country for participating in the TDMI website, particularly this new LEED feature? Did that capture?
Absolutely. Thank you.
So first, thank you, Luana, for setting the stage. I think
you.
It's great to see a real live example of what a company is doing to participate on the TDM points that ultimately lead to LEED certification, and not just in one location, but worldwide.
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think it's where our future is. Thank you.
Thanks, Luana. And David, I'll start answering your question as I get this website online here. So I guess the short answer is that as probably many people in the room feel, I mean, how many people here like to go knocking on doors asking people to participate in their TDM program?
Half the time.
Yeah, so it takes a certain personality to be that salesperson. And even when you are, you face a lot of rejection in the best of sales circumstances. And I think TDM can sometimes be a little challenging. We all know the value of it, but it's very hard to convince people of the value of it. And I feel like what's nice about this tool is that instead of you having to go knock on the door of all the developers and tell them how good the TDM stuff is and how valuable it is to them, or go knocking on the doors of all the property managers out there, those who are seeking LEED certification will have a section of the U.S. Green Building Council on transportation points, and as Luana mentioned, there will be a link is from the U.S. Green Building Council's website under transportation directly to this website that I'm about to show you. So the idea is that they're coming to you. They're coming to this site, they're identifying where they are by location, and ultimately working their way to you as a resource, and that's really our goal. So with that in mind, I'll segue right into the website itself. Let me just say that, and Ramona pointed out to Peggy, I want to just give special thanks to Peggy Schwartz from North Bethesda, who has been very instrumental in helping me and the folks at TDMI get this website off the ground. We've had conversations with members of the TDM community for probably 3 or 4 years now about this subject and how everybody wants to use it more, but there's no tool to get the word out. And so we finally, after months and months of conversation and development, have something that enables us to do that. Let me start a bit with why we saw TDMI as an opportunity to host this site. I think, as Luana mentioned, there's more opportunity than just what's available through the U.S. Green Building Council. There's a movement worldwide to do green building and sustainable building. And so the opportunity to have a platform that focused on a worldwide venue was something that was very appealing to Peggy and I, and it's why this opportunity with TDMI is so exciting. As some of you may know, probably about 4 or 5 months ago, at this, about the time Peggy and I were looking for a website to put this idea together with U.S. Green Building Council, TDMI launched their transportation2.org site. So I'm just going to take you there for a second. It's transportation2.org. And this is live. This is the real site. It's a clearinghouse for information from all different sources related to TDM worldwide. What we'll do once this site that I'm about to show you has been tested, beta tested, and piloted and goes live, there will be a new tab added to the top, and it will stand out significantly because it'll be green. As you can see, the others are blue and red and yellow. And it'll say Green Resources. And when you click on that Green Resources page, you will ultimately end up here. And as you can see, there's a map of the world. And there's a basic explanation that talks about all of the different green programs that are going on worldwide. And at some point, the goal is to have links to different countries and the green programs the green building programs that they have. Right now, our focus is on just the U.S. We're piloting just the U.S. program, and over time, we hope to expand this to other parts of the country. For example, we know in Europe and Australia, they have similar standards, and when you click on those countries, you'd be able to get that type of information as well. So I'll just click for a second here on, well, before I actually get into that, well, I won't get into it. When you click on the US, you'll get a map. So imagine yourself a developer or a property manager who's looking for green building certification. They're going to land on the U.S. Green Building Council website, and if they're an existing building, which means they're more than likely a property manager, they're going to go and land to a site that looks a little bit like this. This is the actual site. It talks about alternative commuting transportation points, and you can see there's a number of tabs here. One says language, one says resources, interpretations, forum. The resources page will have a link from it that comes directly to this LEED tool, this LEED and TDM tool. And so somewhere in the text here, the folks from U.S. Green Building Council will post that link. And that link will bring you back to essentially the previous page that I showed you that was international. Once you get to the United States map, you can drill down even further and identify the LEED professional, the TDM professional that can help you get your LEED certification for at least get your LEED points for TDM. And so you would click, for example, on the state of Virginia. There'll be a list of companies that's formatted. Right now we don't have the list of companies. The database is not populated, And that's part of why we're launching this with all of you today, is we're trying to get as many local TDM professionals as possible to get on the website so that we can populate a database that will look a little like this one, where each of those four main categories that Luana mentioned would be listed at the top. And instead of these circles, you'll have stars. So depending on how much experience you have providing LEED specific TDM services, you'll have anywhere from 1 to 4 stars. And then it'll talk about whether or not this is a free service that you offer as, for example, a government agency, or it's a service that you pay for as part of a consulting firm or otherwise. And there'll be a list that looks a lot like this, and you would click on the vendor that's pertinent to you. Maybe you're concerned just with bike racks and bike accommodations. So you would click on a provider that provides just bike rack specific skill sets. So I guess the question is, how do you get yourself in that database? And the next part of the website that we wanted to share with you was the registration form. So this form is something, when you click on that button that says registration form, and I think we have the provider registration as the title, it'll take you to a page where you can fill out the information that's relevant to your experience. And this is a self-certification process, but we're going to ask for each project that you've done that has LEED criteria involved in it, that you list the project person, the point of contact, a little bit about what you provided, and it falls into those 4 categories that Luana mentioned earlier. Alternative transportation surveys is one of them, and if you were in our earlier session with Peggy and Courtney, you heard about how the more effective you are with your surveys, the more points you get. And if you have done surveys, commuter-based surveys that have LEED questions in them, you get 1 star. If you have done surveys that have LEED questions in them and you get LEED certification, you'll get 2 stars, or seeking certification. If it got certified, you would get 3 stars, and if you got a certain level of points, you would get 4. So the idea is, for each specific project that you're filling out that you have experience for, you would indicate how you can demonstrate that experience and have a point of contact that we can follow up with to verify that that's true. This next set of screening criteria, this survey one is more for existing buildings. This other next set of criteria is on the programmatic side. And so depending on how many of these boxes you fill out, you have education as one of them, and a whole series of options. You can do new hire orientation, employee newsletters, etc. If you check 4 of these, you'll get 1 star. If you check 8 of these, you'll get 2 stars. If you check 14 or more, you'll get 3 stars. And if you've done these things for a site that got LEED certified, you'll get 4 stars. And the idea is, once you fill this out, all of these stars will show up in that grid. And when somebody's making a decision about who they want to contact in their jurisdiction to help them get TDM points for LEED certification, they'll be able to see who's most qualified in this specific area to help me out with that. Similarly, down here, you'll see how with parking management, folks that have done, when they talk about parking management plans with LEED, they're talking about, do you have carpool parking? Do you have electric vehicle parking? Do you have charging stations? Stuff like that. Those are the kind of things they're looking for with parking management. And so if you've written a parking management plan, great, you'll get 1 star. But if you've done it for a project that's seeking LEED certification, you've obviously looked at it through a different lens, 2 stars, and then all the way to whether or not you've gotten points gets you 4 stars. And same thing, bike racks include everything from storage, racks, showers, changing facilities, etc. If you've just basically written a plan that wasn't related to LEED, okay, we'll give you credit as somebody who can help out. But if you've done it for projects that have gotten either have been seeking LEED certification or achieved LEED certification, you'll get additional points. So again, for each project, and Peggy and I have been kind of vetting this form as we go, and again, it's in beta stage right now, but this information would come first. You would have the project name, and then you would say for that project, here are the areas that we feel we can provide particular service with regard to LEED and TDM. At the end, we have a little bit of a keep you honest piece here, verification that says this information that you're providing is true. This is a self-certification process, so what we're doing here is basically compiling information that allows us that should somebody from the public go through this and identify, that person didn't really work on that LEED project. We have the contact information to circle back and verify whether or not that's the case. But at the end of the day, this is something where it's on the honor system. And if we find out that you have in any way misrepresented yourself on this website, we reserve the right to take you off immediately. So again, once you've filled out this form, the intent is that you would then automatically get listed on something that looks like this. And then when people are at the U.S. Green Building Council website, they will link to our website at TDMI, and they'll have the LEED resources tab that they can click on. And again, sorry, this is, I have to keep making this reappear. And you will land on this page here. So again, what our intent is today was to unveil it. We realized that there are items in here that we will need to work out. So we wanted to start this. We knew when we embarked on this that we need to find a small select group of people that we could trust, that know what this stuff is, that have done extensive TDM work, and could populate the database with us and try to help us figure out ways that we can improve this site. So this is truly a unique opportunity. The only people that have seen this site so far are the TDMI board members. Nobody else has seen this. And so we're really looking to all of you to be, for lack of a better way to describe it, guinea pigs. But really, we need your help. You'd be the first people listed on the site. You'd kind of be highly profiled before anybody else. And we'd be able to get feedback from you on how we can make this a little more user-friendly and a little more effective. So I guess with that, I know we've kind of rushed through a lot. It's hard to really demonstrate fully the capability of it while it's still in beta format. But I think if we could walk away with nothing else today is please, when you get an email later this week from Katie Seiler, the president from the ACT chapter of Chesapeake, that you come to the website and you fill it out. We really need as many people as we can to test it and make sure that it's working effectively. So I don't know, Peggy, you've been involved. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, or Nick from TDMI's perspective that you guys want to add.
No, I think it was a great overview. I mean, just to clarify, the certification that we're asking you to do here is not a LEED or USGC certification. You're just certifying that the information you're providing there is accurate and correct and such. So we talked about also the certification kinds of things today. And I think one of the motivations for doing this, when you look at the USGBC website, Justin showed some of the pages before, if you go to the other categories like water or daylight harvesting or something like that, you can click on resources and find all sorts of resources out there to help you implement that particular category. You click on resources under transportation, and there's either nothing or stuff that's sort of out of date, not really helpful. So that was one of the motivations to do this, to say to the property owner out there, the building owner, wherever they may be, that click on Texas, drill down, and all of a sudden they're going to hire the Davis out there in Texas who can help them do their transportation work and TDM work and national thing.
And along those lines, that link that Peggy described from the resources site is something that is new to U.S. Green Building Council and was very exciting to them, because the resources they have are more documents you can download on their other pages. They're not a list of professionals that are there to help you representing an entire industry. So they were very excited to try out something new and push the envelope a little bit.
Yeah, the other thing I just wanted to say is that we're going to be also working not only with ACT, but there are several other organizations that we're going to team up with. Organizations like ULI and maybe some other folks that work directly with either developers or employers, so that we can get this information out and use it as a marketing tool to make sure that folks know that it's there. So we're starting small, but our intent is to grow this, and not only just for North America, but we're looking to grow it internationally. So if anybody has any ideas on that, the board is certainly interested. The TDMI board is interested in hearing from you.
And just a reminder, email coming out tomorrow from the Act Chesapeake chapter to Act Chesapeake members. This pilot, and I think Luana had it in her presentation, will run through May 6th. We feel like that 2-week period will give us enough time to make some modifications. And then, as Mick mentioned, I think you'll start to see it on a much larger stage.
So during the beta test period, 2 weeks, is the resource page for the SPG going to be ready?
No, that's intentional. We wanted to work out so the question was, during this pilot period, will the link be available from the U.S. Green Building Council? And the answer is that intentionally it is not, because we wanted to work out the kinks and make sure it was running well before it had such a large audience. And so the link from the U.S. Green Building Council will start in May.
This resource became available or is going to be available. What were property owners doing to try to navigate through the system of biggest point?
Yeah, the question was, before we created this resource, how would property managers or developers go about finding a TDM professional to help them implement this facet of their program? And the honest answer is that there was no way for them to do that. At best, maybe a developer had a relationship with a transportation firm or organization that would help them, generally speaking, with their transportation needs. Likely not LEED specific. If they were doing LEED, they probably had a LEED consultant, and they probably looked at things from a broad-based, overarching perspective. And they probably know enough about TDM to be dangerous, but they don't know how to implement the stuff to the scale that all of you do. And so this kind of complements and supplements that. And I would think that a lot of those LEED consultants would appreciate having the expertise that's available through our industry if they knew how to access it. And so they may actually, those LEED consultants, websites as well.
Work with some buildings that have used LEED consultants are based in another part of the country, and so they're not familiar with the local resources. And then sometimes users stumble upon them because they're trying to. We had a case a year or two ago where the LEED consultant was trying to do a survey, and at the same time we were doing a survey, and there were federal agencies in the same building who were trying to do their own survey. So within a 7 to 10 day time period, the employees were getting 3 surveys, and consequently everybody was like, well, I did somebody else's, I already did the survey. Nobody was getting a good survey response rate, and it just didn't work. So it's getting the word out to the property owners, the LEED consultants, that there are these local resources.
David and then Courtney. Yeah.
I want to ask this to Luana. Visualize for just a moment that you were not a TDM expert, but within your organization, you're pursuing the transportation-related points for LEED certification. What would you hope and expect to find on this resource list in terms of the types of resources that are going to be there? Who would you want to see, based on, because you know who they are? Who are you hoping?
As far as when I go to this list?
Right.
Myself. People that have a good understanding of, and it's the low-hanging fruit. It's the van pulls, it's the car pulls, it's really getting the company. How would a company implement a program? So it would be someone not only that has knowledge, but has the foundation, the history, pull a program together. Because you can mark the pavement. That's great. But if you don't do the work on the back end to get the people to ride share, then.
So going back to the Texas example then that I represent, which may sound a little odd to many of you since I'm sitting in Arlington.
Wrong Arlington.
People know what TDM means. I mean, I'm in a transit agency. We offer a van pool program. We do HOV, hot lanes, things like that. The other people that I coordinate with in my community for TDM programs, the carpool program that's sponsored by the NPO, the telework program that's sponsored by the NPO, neighboring transit providers who provide transit in areas that my agency doesn't serve, and so forth. And beyond the city with their bike share program or their alternative work schedule program, beyond that, it's consultants and engineering firms and developers who have these types of expertise. So in the long run, you hope that all of those people will be on this list?
Maybe that's a TDMI question. And I think in general, we're looking to have anybody who has TDM expertise. And so that's partly why, David, you have this feature. And again, this is a representation of what you'll see, but you'll see whether or not it's a free local government service, or a consulting level service. And they may provide different levels of expertise or different levels of depth that they can assist depending on how they're able to provide each of the services and the rankings that they get.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to say is that we developed this brochure for the region in terms of how TDM fits into LEED and our very specific strategies that we have listed here. And so these are the strategies that I think most, if not all, developers or employers are going to be interested in pursuing. So if the expertise is in these particular strategies, then by all means, that we're going to want those individuals to be part of this database.
Well, during some of the previous ACT discussions earlier in the week, I've shared that one of the things we're experiencing in Houston these days that may be a little different than in some areas is that most of the companies are reducing and pulling back their resources aimed at TDM and employee community options. So I feel like this is an avenue that it could be a little bit of a game changer for us to find a new way back into a lot of these companies that have closed the door to us. We used to be very supportive, but no longer are willing to pay for internal resources that will help with our.
Yeah, and I think what you're going to find, sorry, I don't mean to, but I think what you're going to find is that there are many organizations that are probably in that boat. However, the flip side of that is that a lot of them have sustainability programs or they have green programs. And what we're doing fits in nicely with those programs, and you're absolutely, you hit the nail right on the head. This is a game changer. And I think that as an industry, we need to take advantage of that, and that's where TDMI comes in so that we can help our industry get to that point and make those connections again, or reconnect, I guess.
Earlier I was sitting at lunch with a gentleman who is the local planner for Arlington, Texas, and he reviews TDM plans. And he said a lot of times they have a requirement that says on an ongoing basis you need to survey. And he feels like oftentimes, that's a burden. They're asking them to survey, and they always push back and say, I'm a developer. I don't survey people. That's not my thing. But he was looking at this type of information as an opportunity to spin that in a different way, to say, look, this is not just a survey. This is a way for you to get, as Courtney and Peggy pointed out in the earlier session, up to 15 of your 40 points that you need to get base level LEED certification. So now all of a sudden, this thing that was a burden is a real opportunity. And even local governments are looking at ways to present this so that is highlighted in the way they work with development.
Yeah, and just to add to that, and it's in the brochure as well, at least 30% of these certification points can come from implementing alternative transportation options. So that's huge.
And that's the part that we
you've got to take advantage of that.
Right. And sometimes this is what gets them over that hump of the LEED certification. They're like, TDM.
Time for one or two more questions.
But an answer. So I don't like to lose it, stump to them. So daylight harvesting. So actually I knew this, and when it just sounds different coming out of your mouth, but it's a photo sensor, and so it detects the light that comes into our building, and then it adjusts the electricity as need be to lower the lights or turn them off. Because if you notice, the whole building is all glass. So.
See, I think I knew that too, but I've forgotten.
I know, I did too. You never get a presentation without knowing everything. So I'm like, okay, this is
See what you learn in the world of TDM. We do everything.
Yes, I'm not a LEED expert by any stretch of the imagination.
I know Luana mentioned this, but I'd just like to reemphasize that in order to get listed, there is a payment option on the site. For the limited time that we're piloting, we have it for a reduced rate of $50, and then it will go up to $100. So again, we encourage you, for those of you that are part of this chapter that can take advantage of it, let's do it in the next couple of weeks so you can get that good price. It's conveniently arranged so that you can pay by PayPal. And so you can do it all online. It's super easy. So next time you visit the site, come with your credit card. Or your PayPal account.
Well, with that, if you have anything else to add, just want to thank TDMI and Luana and Justin for presenting. So thank you.